All right, good. Everything should be working well. We'll get started for today's session over here. Yeah, so we'll jump straight in. Okay, and what we're gonna cover as usual, okay, on a weekly, regular basis, walk you through some of the things that has happened last week. What are some of the events to take note for this week? And we'll look at the charts to cover some of the major pairs, gold, S&P, and then a little bit on Bitcoin, Ethereum to share with you like which one you want to be focusing on for this week itself. Okay, and then on the closing note, we'll share with you some of the upcoming events that we have, and of course, some special bonus from the partners over here from Zenfinix here. Good. Okay, so let's look at what has happened last week. Okay, so last week over here, you should be familiar with. I think one of the most quote unquote surprising event that happened was actually NFP. Okay, because when that data came out, it was a very positive NFP data, but the dollar sell off, right? Later when you look at the chart, you saw the dollar sell off actually quite significantly. So other than that, we do have a couple of like interest rate decision and news as of last week, right? We have the RBA coming in, hiking rate to 2.85, and then of course we have the Fed funds rate hiking it to 4%, and then we have the Bank of England hiking it to 3%. So more or less all banks are still hiking. Okay, and as I mentioned just now, the one event that shocked most traders on Friday is actually NFP. Okay, now obviously we won't have an exact answer as to why a positive NFP actually resulted in the dollar weakness, but one way to look out for it is because unemployment rate actually increased quite significantly, right? The previous unemployment was 3.5. Last Friday unemployment rate came up to 3.7. Okay, so that perhaps is a perspective where more people are being unemployed, and that results in traders starting to forward thinking a little bit. Okay, maybe the economy is not really growing again. We're likely gonna see a recession in the future. Maybe with this high unemployment rate rising, the Fed might start to cut down or tone down a little bit on the hiking process and things like this. Okay, and perhaps from that perspective, we see a profit taking in the dollar, and the dollar actually sell off. However, having said all this, from a fundamental point of view, we are still seeing an overall uptrend for the dollar. Okay, so later when we look into the charts, I'll explain a bit more about my analysis and thought process. Okay, so this week, the first most important data you want to keep track is actually on Thursday, where we have the US CPI year on year coming out. Okay, now this is definitely very crucial because it gives us an idea of the overall inflation in the US. Okay, so as of last reported, CPI was at 8.2%, which is very high. This time round, traders are expecting it to drop to 8%. So if the actual data comes out less than 8, we're probably gonna see the continuation of a sell-off in the dollar, okay, which means you want to look for sell opportunity in line with, let's say, a very weak, or not very weak, but basically CPI data that is less than 8%. If CPI data comes in above 8, maybe at 8.2 or even just 8.1, we might see a little bit of strength coming back in the dollar, because then it means that inflation is still very high and it's gonna put pressure on the Fed continue to do its hiking process, and therefore the dollar would maybe regain back its strength. Okay, and on Friday we have a couple of holidays, especially on CAD and dollar. Okay, so it might be a little bit quiet. So the focus on this week is definitely going to be on that CPI data coming in. Okay, so keep an eye on if you're trading the dollar related pairs for this week. Make sure you're aware Thursday we have a high impact news. Okay. So with that, let's take a look at the let's take a look at the charts over here. Okay, so if you take a look at dollar index, that's where the NFP came in and the dollar sell off. So going forward this week over here, okay, as of now, today, okay, I'm kind of maintaining a neutral perspective because of this pattern called the V shape. Whenever we see a V shape on the chart, I would stay out. I would be neutral, and I want to see what's next. Okay. Now, obviously, the momentum here is down. Therefore, there's a good possibility we're gonna continue to see the dollar weaken towards like retest the previous bottom of 109.55. But the question is more of like, how will price reach that level from here? So if the market does a little bit of a corrective pullback that looks maybe something like that, and then in line with Thursday's CPI, we might see that sell off and we can capitalize on this short-term trade. Okay. On the other hand, if let's say the dollar continue to drop but in a very corrective movement that looks something like that, okay, then over here we have a crawl, then maybe we'll look for a rebound. Okay. So from a chart perspective, we want to see how price is going to develop in the next couple of days, right? So we have a very good Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe half of Thursday to build into CPI. From there, we'll see what is the pattern. In line with CPI, maybe we can use a news trade strategy to get involved in it. Okay, so that's my view on the dollar. Okay, so for now, it really needs to see how the market develops. Now, if you put that perspective in the euro, kind of inverse relationship, right? So we also have this little V shape here as of now. So neutral, but as I mentioned again, if we can, okay, put this here. If we can see a corrective pullback, right, then of course we can take this trade back up to the previous top. Okay. On the other hand, you know, if euro dollar just decides to keep crawling up like that, then in line with CPI, we'll look for this to come down. So it's kind of just the opposite of the dollar index. Okay, so euro dollar over here, keep an eye on that. You might not have a setup all the way until Thursday, and maybe just before CPI, you come back on euro dollar or the dollar index and see what pattern it develops. If you get a clear setup, that's where the opportunity comes in, right? So you kind of get a clear technical combined with a news catalyst for a potential trade. Right? Pound dollar over here, we are currently testing that 618. Okay, though this doesn't mean that you want to just sell it. From a chart perspective, we have a break below the trend line on Friday. Okay, and right now we have a retracement and retest of it. Okay, so naturally we'll maintain a bearish perspective, but this is not a sell at this moment. My view here is you want to get some kind of rejection first before you take the sell trade. Okay, so for me, I think pound dollar may not have anything this week for me, okay, but of course, if let's say you have a more aggressive approach to look for a sell, maybe on a lower time frame, maybe on a 30-minute, 1-hour chart, you know, you see a candle rejection, you can take it if that's your strategy. Okay, so for me, overall direction over here on pound dollar is I'm maintaining a slightly bearish view. If I get a setup, then we'll look for the sell, but I'm expecting at least a 1, 2, 3 back towards this area of 1.1005 and 1.0850. Okay, so that's how I look at pound dollar as of now. Okay. Aussie dollar over here does have an opportunity. Okay, if we see a nice little correction in the next 1 or 2 days, then we can look for a short-term trade to take it to the upside at 6625. So overall, this is the pattern that I'm expecting it to develop. I have this as a 1, this is a 2, so we expect a third wave up, and then internally we have a 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I want to see in by Tuesday and Wednesday, right? Maybe not tomorrow, but maybe by Wednesday morning, if we see a slow little corrective pullback retracement towards this 50 and 618, somewhere around like 6380, 6355, that will be an opportunity to take the buy with a take profit around 6625 and then the stop loss below 6270. Okay. So as long as the market is able to respect this low, and I think more importantly is this channel here, we're gonna expect another push, right? Because the three-wave expectation is that we're expecting one more up before that maybe bigger move to the downside. Okay. I think Aussie dollar here might present a good opportunity in the next 1 or 2 days, right? So keep an eye on that. And then of course we have the dollar Canadian. Okay, a very nice little head and shoulder pattern. The market is currently breaking the neckline. Okay, so depending on how you trade it, if you're trading a very conventional head and shoulder pattern, then you'll be trading the breakout. Okay, and then maybe a stop will be at the top of 3810, okay, which is here, and then your target will be at 3030, right? 1.3030. It's basically just taking the head to the neckline and then you do a projection down 1:1, right? So I think this is a very classic chart pattern. Okay, if you're trading the head and shoulder, for me, I would want to wait and see if we can get a decent pullback first, something like that, maybe towards trade 2 or 50% fit, somewhere around price point of 1.36 to 1.3630. Then I'll look for that sell from there, right? I'm not so much of a conventional head and shoulder, right? Because if I take a breakout here, my stop here, then it's quite wide, okay? That kind of reduces my risk to reward, and that's not something I look into, okay? So that's how I look at it. Of course, this one here, the direction is quite clear. As long as the market maintains below 3810, we're expecting more downside for dollar Canadian. Okay, I see a quick question over here. How did I pull the 200 pip extension on dollar CAD? Okay, very quickly over here in terms of this 200. Okay, it's basically taking from the head to the neckline back to the head, and then I'm putting that 200 in. Okay, so why 200? You may ask, is because it's basically fits again. It's basically just a ruler, right? So what I'm measuring is essentially taking from this length to this length, and then I'll just duplicate that down, right? So that's where the 200 is. It's basically 1, 2, right? So that's how it means. Okay. So nothing fanciful, not a magical level, but that's the conventional way of measuring head and shoulder. Cool. I see some question over here on Kiwi. Let's very quickly take a look at Kiwi dollar. Okay, Kiwi dollar is not something that I tend to focus a lot. Okay, instead I'm actually more on the Aussie side of things. So maybe very quickly, let me see what we can look out for. Okay, I think over here on the daily, right, the momentum does suggest a little bit more upside for the Kiwi dollar. Okay, and then of course on the 4-hour, this rally up is not very impulsive, but overall the momentum is still there. Let me bring this in. Okay, there is a good possibility of what we can see over here is gonna be something like that. Okay, it's not the best looking pattern. Okay, but likely what we have over here will be something like this, right? So we are expecting maybe a little bit more upside towards this 0.6 even number, and then we might experience a little bit of pullback, looking at some support on that trend line for the bounce back and make another high. So my suggestion over here is taking the buy trade for this area might not be very interesting. Maybe the upside potential is not huge, but what you want to see is, can we get, whether a push up first or what, can we get a pullback towards this trend line? Then you look for the buy. That will be more worthwhile. Okay, so you can see this trend line over here 1 time, 2 time, 3 times. So the 4th time, if it's going to be supported, I think that will be a good area to look for the buy. Okay, so if you compare to like Aussie dollar, we kind of have that little bounce here, right? So we have like 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, right? And then we get a very nice bounce. Okay, so that's my view on that. Okay, in terms of dollar yen, the overall direction I'm focusing is on the sell. Okay, and right now I'm looking at it as this is a running flat 1 2 3. So as long as the price stays below 148.85, we're gonna expect more downside towards 142.50. Not the best looking trade because this little drop here is not that impulsive. We want it to go fast. Okay, right now it's not really doing that. So just be careful. Not the best trade. I mean, there are better ones like Aussie dollar. I think it's way clearer. Dollar CAD is way clearer. Those two are definitely the focus. But you know, dollar yen here, not really that. Depends on whether it fits into your strategy. Okay, so that's the one. One of you is asking on pound odd. Very quickly, let me see. Pound odd on the 4-hour chart is actually quite a clear setup. Okay, we have this little channel over here. Okay, the fit ratio should look perfect as well. We have that 100 to 123. Okay, over this. So this kind of builds up that WXY, that 3-wave completed. So the perspective of this is that as long as the market stays above this level, okay, 1.7480, we can expect more upside on this. Okay, a very conservative target I'm gonna use is a fit extension. Okay, using this area here. So your target you can look up for is here. Okay, around 1.8400, and as long as the market maintains above 7480, I think that upside is there. Okay, so quite clear. This is a very nice 3-wave. This is a huge leader impulse. What you want to keep track of is, do we get a continuation upside, a correction here, and then this will continue, right? So look out for this setup if you're not in the buy. Okay, I think that's a pretty decent opportunity on pound odd to keep an eye on. Okay, yeah, so great. Let me take away those. Okay, I like those. That's worth of monitoring. Euro yen, not the best. I mean, generally most of the yen, right, it's not looking very clear. So you might want to stay out of it. Okay, so I think Euro yen not the best pair to be focusing. We're in consolidation. Okay, so in areas like that, very difficult to trade. Cool. So Euro yen, just stay out of it. Yeah. So I think Victor here asks. Okay, good. Let me cover the gold chart. Okay, I see some of you have questions. Let me cover the gold first, right? So gold chart over here, we had a very nice bounce on last Friday. So from here, I don't think it's a very surprising bounce because last Friday we came close to this little support around 16-17. And not only we have a double bottom, we have a triple bottom if you stretch it a little bit there. Okay, right now, the market is testing this high. I do expect a little bit of maybe a pullback here. Okay, and that would be good, right? If we can get a decent corrective pullback, then that would opens up more upside, because then this would be the setup that we can look for entry. The direction here is bullish as long as the market maintains above 16-17. If you can pulls back correctively towards 16.55, 16.50, that will be a decent buy opportunity, and we're looking for huge upside on gold. Okay. So on the daily, you can see we're basically bottoming. If we can get a buy, that will be a long-term push all the way up. Okay. So definitely gold is one that you want to keep an eye on for this week. Good. Okay. Then let me cover the S&P indices as well. Okay, we do get a little bit of a bounce right now, but right now we might see this as a corrective pullback, and we can expect maybe one more drop, okay, in the short run, if the market continue to stay below 3920. Okay, so if you're trading in terms of equities and indices, this is something that you want to keep an eye on this week as well, and of course put that in line with the upcoming CPI. Of course, if the Fed is likely gonna continue hiking rates, it's not gonna be good for equities, and that will be in line with S&P falling. Okay, so keep an eye on that too. Bitcoin over here may not have much, but Ethereum, if you're looking at short-term play, on the 1 hour, you might get that short-term trade back down towards 1480 in this week, right? So we kind of have this little drop, and if we can get again this setup, that will be decent for a sell. Okay, so I think Ethereum has that opportunity if you're looking into crypto space. Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a couple. We have like Aussie dollar, dollar CAD. One of you pointed out pound Aussie, gold, S&P, and Ethereum. Oh, okay. I see some of you are asking in terms of like quite exotic pairs, right? Like NOKSEK. Let's take a look at that. Okay, not a currency pair that I think most traders trades. Okay. Okay, on the daily, it's really not going anywhere. It's currently in this huge consolidation. On the 4-hour chart, there's a couple of different possibilities of how this will play out. Okay, now one is that from a pattern perspective, this can continue to come down and break this low, and then that would develop as an impulse correction, and this would likely mean upside. What can also happen from here is that if we put in a trend line, okay, then this can likely also turn into a crawl. Okay, something maybe like that. And if you get supported and bounce back up here, then this will be a sell opportunity for downside, right? So this is maybe if you don't trade Norwegian versus the other one, which is Swedish krona, not something that many traders trade, but I think since you bring this up, it's actually a good case study for you guys to learn of what we call forecasting and adapting to what the market is telling you. Okay, because right now what you see over here is there's very good chance of either of this happening. Okay, so either, as I mentioned, a crawl, or this continue to come down and break this, and then this forms kind of like a correction. Either of this are likely gonna be happening, very high chance. Okay, so it becomes a good case study because you're able to then observe, right? When you face with something like that, how should you manage it? So even if you don't trade, then I will also strongly encourage you to monitor it throughout the week, to just observe, you know, as we share today, we do a little bit of forecasting today. You want to then observe, you know, from now until maybe end of this week, how the market develop. Cool. Okay, so in such situation, how I handle is I don't touch it, right? Because I don't trade now. I either find a trade if this comes down here, I'll find a trade if I can buy it, because then that would be the pattern. Or I'll wait for this to maybe go back up if it's gonna bounce, and then I'll find a trade at the top here to sell it. Okay, so I don't trade here, but as I mentioned, it's a good one to monitor because either we're gonna get something here or we're gonna get something here, right? So great. Thanks for bringing this up because it becomes an opportunity where traders can focus on it. Okay, yeah. So maybe I'll highlight this so that we can take note of that too. Okay. Cool. Right. So just to quickly summarize what we have covered so far, opportunities for the week. Okay, you definitely want to keep an eye on Aussie dollar for the upside. You want to keep an eye on dollar Canadian for the downside. Okay, pound Australia, keeping it for the upside. Gold upside, right? S&P down, and of course Ethereum over here for a short-term trade to the downside. So definitely a couple of opportunities to keep an eye on for the week. Okay, you're definitely not short of trading setups and opportunity, yeah. Okay. Great. One last one I see here is Pound New Zealand. Pound New Zealand, the head and shoulder pattern is playing out very nicely. So what we can expect, of course, is if this does a correction here, then one more push down to complete the expectation of head and shoulder, and then maybe this will bounce. Okay. So yeah, so good to look for patterns, right? Again, 2 weeks back we talked about this one here is head and shoulder. Dollar CAD is actually doing that now, right? So pattern tends to repeat itself on price chart, and that's the whole idea about technical analysis, right? You're essentially trading the patterns because they tend to repeat and they have certain reliability of happening, right? So case in point again, Pound New Zealand and dollar CAD head and shoulder. Okay, but of course not all the time they're gonna play out perfectly, right? But those are probability setups. Good. Okay. So I hope today's session can give you an idea on some of those pairs to focus, give you an overview for the week to prepare for as well. I hope it's helpful. And then some closing note over here. Okay. We have an upcoming event. Let me just show you the title of it. We'll have an upcoming webinar workshop titled How to Trade the Market in a Rising Rates Environment this coming Saturday. The date is 12th of November. It's gonna happen on 3 p.m. afternoon. Okay. So if you're interested to join us in this session, feel free to reach out to the Zenfinix team. Okay. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go to the description box below. There's a link that leads you to a WhatsApp contact. Click on that link, it'll bring you over to WhatsApp. Just let them know that you wish to attend this upcoming webinar. They'll help you register and give you a link to the Zoom. If you're in Zoom watching right now, then I'll get the team to help just drop the WhatsApp link so that you can just click on it and then reach out to them and register for this webinar so that they can send you the Zoom link. Okay, so this is happening this coming Saturday, which is very, very appropriate because we are definitely in an environment where all central banks are hiking rates. Then in this environment, from a fundamental point of view, how do we search for opportunity? Okay, so that's what we're going to cover in that session itself. Okay. And of course, over here, just want to very quickly cover some offers, some promotions that are running with Zenfinix as well. Okay, so as of this month, if you register and open an account with Zenfinix and make a minimum deposit of $100, you can get an $88 credit into your account, which means in total you get $188, and you'll be able to use this total of $188 to trade. Okay, so this is the current promotion that they're running for November. If you've been following, our sharing for some time, you realize that this little bonus is getting smaller as time passed by. So it was initially, I think, like 1:1. So if you put like $100, you get $100. But November right now you're getting less. So do take action fast. If you like to take opportunity of this offer. Okay. And another one over here is that we do have the Zenfinix Trading Dose Telegram channel. Okay, and what I do over there is every day I can post a chart to share with you, a little bit of the technical analysis in hope that you can also learn from it. And if today you would like to join this Telegram channel, you can either scan the QR code or you can get it from the Zenfinix team, right? So if you reach out to them again on WhatsApp, you'll be able to they'll be able to support and help you with that. Cool. Okay. So that's all from me for today. I hope again it's been helpful for you by sharing with you on a weekly, regular basis like that. All the best to your trading. Okay, and for those of you who are joining us in this Saturday's webinar, I'll see you guys inside. Okay. All the best, and I'll see you guys Saturday. Bye bye.